The place I worked at was a campground in a provincial park on the Alaska Highway, 4 hours north of Fort Nelson and 2 hours south of the Yukon/British Columbia border. The best part about this park was the fact that it had a beautiful nature hot springs, which attracts tourists from all over North America every summer. I lived in an old trailer on a separate part of the campground where the rest of the staff lived. I quickly got used to living in a place where I had no running water, no electricity, no cell phone service, and no internet, and driving 4 hours to Fort Nelson every 2 weeks to get groceries and do my laundry. Life was pretty sweet. I got to hike, go for late night dips in the springs, make some traveling friends, and spend quality time in nature. My job at the campground was park facility operator, which was general maintenance and cleaning of campsites, gatehouse attendant, wildlife interpreter, and sometimes I had a few security shifts here and there. The feeling of living in the woods was much different than the feeling of living in a city as far as safety goes. In the city I'm from, there are people around. You are aware of the fact that your house or apartment could get broken into, but emergency services are quick to respond and neighbors are also a plus. However, in the woods, I felt more vulnerable. The closest police were 4 hours away, and I lived in a trailer that was run down enough that it could easily get broken into. Plus, it was pretty dark and anyone could sneak around easily at night. I was already on edge, going to bed every night. The trailer next to mine was abandoned by the previous manager of the campground after his son had shot himself in the head inside of it. The previous manager had promised numerous times that he would hire a company to drive up from Fort Nelson and tow the trailer away, but that never happened, not while I lived there at least, and nobody seemed to care about it too much. I went into the trailer once, saw the blood and stuff still on the wall, and never went in again. Back in the 90s, there was also a fatal bear attack at the hot springs. We all had to read the incredibly gruesome and detailed police report about it for our bear aware training. So, yeah, unsettling to say the least. One night, at probably around 2 in the morning, I'm asleep inside my trailer and am woken up to a very loud banging on my trailer door. Reasonably shaken, I look outside the window next to my bed and see a car with its lights on and two men standing at my door. I can feel the blood drain from my face. This is the moment I've been scared of the entire summer. Through the door, I say, "How can I help you?" And one of the guys, clearly hammered out of his mind, starts rambling on about something. No matter how hard I try, I cannot understand what he is saying. I say, "Sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to tell me." And the other guy starts frantically trying to explain something in the same drunken state as the first guy. I decided at this point that they don't mean any harm, and I open the door to talk to them. They look visibly shaken, and I can tell they are desperate for my help, but don't have the mental capacity of a person sober enough to coherently tell me what's wrong. One of the dudes started telling me a very long story that I managed to piece together through all of his slurring and hiccuping. Basically, he says that him and his friend are on vacation, came up from Fort Nelson to party. They had a really long drive. They were at the hot springs. They were having beers. They were sorry about having beers. They weren't drunk, clearly. And then he drops the bomb that somebody is running around the campground, stabbing people. I look at the guy telling me the story, and I noticed he has blood all over his clothing. I say, someone is going around stabbing people? And he replies, yes, someone's running around stabbing everybody. Then the other guy yells, come on, let's go. And they hop into the aforementioned car and speed off before I can question them further. Now I'm standing at my trailer door in the darkness, alone, thinking there is a maniac running around wielding a knife. I have no phone, and I know that the only person who has a phone is the ranger, and his cabin is about a 5-minute walk away from my trailer. I remember that I have a radio, so I run inside my trailer, lock the door, and try to get the ranger on the radio. His radio is off, of course. The only thing I can do at this point is to go to the ranger's cabin and notify him of the situation. I get out of my trailer and run through the darkness across the maintenance ground, past the creepy suicide trailer, through a thicket and straight towards the ranger's cabin. Every single noise I hear from the surrounding forest is making my heart pound faster. I keep imagining this maniacal man sneaking through the bushes, entering people's tent, and slashing everybody like some bad horror film. I get to the ranger's cabin and pound on his door. He answers within a few minutes, visibly sleep deprived, and I tell him the whole story. While I'm in there, he calls the police and they tell him that they are on their way and will be there in 4 hours. The ranger grab is gone, walks me back to my trailer and says, don't let anybody in. I stay up the rest of the night, listening for any sort of disturbance around me. The intense kind of listening where you're concentrating so hard on any external sounds that might be made that you almost feel death from the silence. After about 2 hours of doing this, my trailer starts rocking back and forth. I freeze, my heart drops, I can hear the sound of someone breathing extremely heavily. And I'm thinking, this is it, the knife-wielding maniac is going to murder me, and this trailer is going to be another one they have to tow away. I'm just sitting there, on my bed, in my trailer, as it's rocking, waiting for the maniac to stop tormenting me and just break the window and stab me. I'm still listening intently to the heavy breathing, and that's when I hear a grunt, a very non-human sounding grunt. I get a feeling that it's not what I think it is, and I peer out the window of my trailer, and it's a fucking bison is scratching its back on the side of my trailer, causing it to rock back and forth. Great fucking timing, bison. The RCMP get there at around 6:30 a.m. and proceed with their investigation for 10 hours. They close off the springs and the entire campground turns into an episode of CSI. We don't hear anything about what took place during the night until the investigation is over. Apparently, there was a guy at the springs who made a lewd comment about one of the females in another group, which resulted in an argument. The guy disappeared and returned an hour later with a knife, stabbed 2 of the guys in the group, and booked it back to Fort Nelson, not before stopping at my trailer with his buddy to tell me about the incident. Of course, yeah, one of those guys at my trailer, he was the dude stabbing people. My guess is that him and his friend stopped by my trailer to try to make it seem like they were innocent. Drunken logic. The 2 guys that were stabbed survived, which is good. For many days following this incident, I was cleaning up blood-soaked clothing and rags from random places all over the campground. So this happened. Bit of a background of the last 25 minutes. I just got home from a reasonably big night. It's 4:30 a.m. and fucking hot in this part of Australia right now. I walked in the door and opened the fridge and was so happy to find three icy cold beers in the fridge. I take two of them and walk upstairs to bed to read and drink myself into a boozy sleep. My first issue: the beers are not twist tops, they need a bottle opener. And after some sloppy drunken attempts at using the handle of the drawer of my bedside table, I head back downstairs to use an actual bottle opener. I turn on the kitchen lights, which are so bright that they make the space behind my eyes burn. I squint around to find the bottle opener, which I can't find, so I use the solid edge of a large kitchen knife. It's a risky choice, but the bottle cap is off the beer, and I'm happy. I turn off the alien blinding kitchen lights and go to head upstairs, but something through the front window of my house that looks onto the street catches my eye. I stop at the bottom of the stairs, and all the hairs on the back of my neck and arms stand up. I turn my head slowly, and my eyes and brain are trying to make sense of what I'm looking at. It looks like a rain drenched woman in a fancy white dress gazing at me through the window. Oh fuck, it actually is. I pause and take the longest inhale of my life. She's glaring at me like she hates me. She has mascara running down her face, and she is drenched from the rain. Her arms are extended, and she's leaning her head towards me like her body language was trying to say, "Look at me, look at what you've done." I'm shitting bricks, but the rational side of my brain kicks in, and I think, shit, is she okay? Does she need help? I slowly walk over to the window, her gaze still locked onto mine. We are now literally within 1 meter of each other. I say it loudly through the glass. "Are you okay? Do you need help? Is anyone with you?" Then it dawns on me. My gate is locked, and there is an 8 foot high fence which is very difficult to climb. How did she get in? She doesn't respond to my inquiry. She just keeps that hateful look in her eyes. We stood there for about another 30 seconds. I was looking around nervously, trying to make sense of this, and she was just glaring into my soul. And then she finally opened her mouth as if to say something, but it wasn't words that came out of her mouth. It was an insanely high pitched meowing noise. I know it sounds crazy. And then she starts clawing at the window with her novelty sized fingernails. What the fuck? I'm frozen and I don't know what to do. She is clearly not very well, not very well at all. Then, in the background behind the fence, I see another woman, probably 20 something, dressed in a short black club dress, with the glow of her phone lighting up her face. She sees the woman in white at my window and yells, "Michelle, you pissed bitch, that's the wrong fucking house." The rain soaked nightmare. Catwoman's eyes go from "I hate you and I want you to die" to "Oh my god, I'm so sorry" slash embarrassed. And she runs over to the fence and impressively Army Commando flings herself over it. I can then hear a group of ladies pissing themselves laughing, saying how Jason's house is number 25, not 23, you fucking idiot. That poor guy is probably going to call the cops now. All I know is that I'm so happy that I was on the receiving end of a misdirected prank and I didn't have to be killed by a well-dressed hybrid cat demon woman. And now I have to go back down to the kitchen to open my other beer, but I'm still too afraid.